Clark of The Sorcerer's Apprentice came on over. He lives in Bremen, Indiana. I am actually in Warsaw, Indiana. So if you guys are in the area and want to meet up and grab a beer, I will let people buy me a beer. How's that? Or I'll buy a beer. I don't care. Come on over to Warsaw. We'll hang out. Josh says, my wife is going to be mad. Told her I couldn't pick the kids up because I had training at 3. When she comes home and sees me sitting on Facebook with a beer, it won't end well. Josh, it's been nice knowing you. All right, so we are up and running. If you have questions, do post those down here below. And I normally try and keep these to an hour because I've already wasted 20 minutes. I don't mind going a little over an hour. We can do some Q&A at the end. What we're going to try and do is go through how to source a little more efficiently. So we're not going to get into how to understand or how to, which books you're looking at. That certainly will help you. When you're starting out, I would definitely recommend scanning everything you can in a thrift store and learn from what you're doing. There's going to be stuff that you scan that just doesn't make sense and it's worth money. There's going to be stuff you scan that you thought was worth money, and of course it isn't. We've all been there. So we're not going to spend time as much. If you want to ask some in the Q&A, we can get to that. We're going to want to take a look at what data comes back from Amazon, particularly rank, prices, new prices, number of offers, other things as well. We're going to try and look at as much of that data as possible and teach you how to interpret and make good decisions. So if you guys have ISBNs, some of you are posting those in there already. Go ahead and post some ISBNs. I've got a couple queued up already, and we're going to walk through some findings as well. So the idea is many of you start out, you use the stock triggers that come with Scout IQ or whatever app you're using, or you're using the Amazon seller app. Not bad options. And if you just want to go with some preset triggers, the ones we did essentially change the game. We look at many factors. We'll get into our triggers in a minute. But we want to help you learn to interpret the data. Let me back up. The fastest way to scout is by using earphones like I've got in right now, or some Bluetooth headphones, putting your phone down and simply scouting and going off audio triggers. That's going to be the fastest way to get through books as quickly as possible. However, because of the way that some data comes back from Amazon and because some listings just don't make sense, you're going to either overbuy, you're going to buy too many bad books, depending on how you set your triggers up, or you're going to underbuy, you're going to miss out on some winners. So the fastest way is audio only or using some sort of a trigger set. The best way, in my opinion, is to actually look at the data, train your brain to interpret that data, and then make better decisions as you get into it. So I've got, as I queue this up, if you guys have questions again, feel free to pop those up. I'm going to pull up Slack so I can chat with Matthew. If he's got questions, he'll post them here. I've got Facebook on in the background. I'm multitasking like crazy. Keith, Ed, Josh, Ben, thanks for watching. Let me pop the other comments up as well. And thanks for being here. Thanks for giving us some of your time as well. So we're going to be talking again, if you're just jumping on, we're going to be talking about how to source a little more efficiently, understanding the data, and trying to buy better books as you get back up. So we've got some ISBNs from Caesar, from Josh. If you have other ones, we will jump into those in a little bit. If you guys at any point can't hear me or can't see me, just leave a comment below and that'll trigger that something is going on. Seth, Ryan, thanks for being here as well. You guys are asking to make the screen bigger. I can make my ugly mug bigger if you like. We're going to be showing, hopefully that helps. We're going to be showing my screen, so let me pop up some other software as well. I'm in a weird scenario now. I just switched over about 9 months ago to Android. I have a Pixel 2 phone, and it's been great, and I like it. I got a magnet on the back for a car mount, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm still on a MacBook, and the technologies don't always cross over as nicely as we would like. Hang on. And so I'm trying to get some new software. For those of you that do screen sharing, if you have a MacBook and an iPhone, it's relatively easy, and you can set that up with QuickTime if you guys want to nerd out over software. If you're using a Pixel phone and want to get it to go to your Mac or your PC remotely, like a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth connection, you can actually use what's called AirDroid. I've just been messing around with it a little bit, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed, actually. So we're going to view the camera. That should pop up on the screen, and let me make my mug a little bit smaller. Apologies for this in the backgrounds. Okay, so we should be able to see the phone camera off to the side. Let's try and make that as big as we can. Okay. Make it a little bigger yet. Okay, so we've got the phone screen. There's a little bit of a lag because we are going through Wi-Fi, so apologies if things look a little off. We'll center that up. So hopefully you can see that. Let's move, let's move the face. And, all right, thanks for your patience. This was all set up before. Ran into some issues with, I guess, pop-ups being blocked or something in Chrome, and I think we're live now. So we've got this set to where we want it, and whew, let's take a quick breath and let's jump in. Okay, if you guys are messaging me on Facebook, those are all gonna show up right now. I've got to figure out how to turn notifications off on Android. Someone can message me later. If random things pop up, just ignore that, and we're gonna jump in. So my scouting setup, if you're gonna scout quickly, again, we talked about how do you interpret the data, and I've got a whole sheet of barcodes. If you guys saw us on the Rake-In show, we had something similar to this. We're just gonna walk, that's a blank one. We're gonna walk through some, I just printed out some barcodes of some books that we wanna talk about, and then if you have your own that you wanna look at as well. We're gonna look at what data is on the screen, and other than just trusting Scout IQ to say, hey, if it says accept, it's probably a good book. We're going to teach you to look at the data and try and make some better decisions, especially when it's related to books that are selling for $1,000. There's very few books that actually sell for $1,000, and we're going to help you try and identify which ones those are and how to be better. Pete, Vicky, again, Keith and Ryan, thanks for being here. Feel free to ask questions down below, and Matthew's going to be relaying some of those to me, and I'll be looking at those as well. So my scouting setup is I've got a Bluetooth scanner. It's an Opticon 2002. The 2006 works really well. A KDC 200, and I know some of you are socket scanner fans as well. We're going to pair this essentially as a keyboard in HID mode, and what that allows us to do is we can simply scan into Scout IQ, and it should be showing my screen here. Let me make sure AirDroid's doing its thing. There it is. I think we're slightly lagged, but there it is. Okay, so we're gonna do our best to work through this and show you what's going on. So you can see my screen. If I'm tapping on it, we can change the price. And again, I'm simply going to scan barcodes here. I'm gonna be doing this all in live mode just to, if you're doing it or following along and looking at the barcodes, that'll be a little bit simpler. And again, there is some lag, not really due to the app, more so due to the fact that we're using some third-party software here and remotely broadcasting everything in. I love the society we live in. I love all the technology. Okay, so we're going to primarily be looking at the main screen here. And if you're newer to Scout IQ, or if Scout IQ is not the app you use, let's just walk briefly through the data that we're looking at. The most important thing is just like anything else. Is the book selling in the past? What's the sales rank? And then what are the current prices? And we're going to try and pick an accurate price. What Scout IQ does is it looks at 4 different parameters. We're looking at prime prices, we're looking at all used prices, we're looking at the buy box, and I'm gonna help you understand. There's some limited data that comes back from Amazon. We only get the lowest 15 to 20 used prices, and so what happens is we try and display that as best we can and try and make good decisions based on this. This particular book, I'll highlight this and we'll come to several examples of that. So this particular one, we can see that there are 50 used offers. The prices on the left, we can see the lowest prices. We show the lowest 15 offers, and the way we do it is we show the lowest offer, second, third, fourth, fifth. Then we jump to the 10th lowest and the 15th lowest. And you'll see in this particular case, the price doesn't move a lot. There's a ton of sellers all jammed up really close to that price. The FBA column is blank. Now this is really important. If you're not used to a scouting app, I remember when I first started out, I got really excited and brought tons of books home because the FBA column was blank. And I said, yes, there's no prime sellers. I can be the only seller. And I'd get home and there was sellers on these books for $7 and $8. And I said, what am I doing wrong? Well, Amazon, again, only shows the lowest 15 to 20 offers. If there's no prime prices in those lowest 20 offers, they will not show up in the app. So this can be somewhat misleading. We'll show you how to look around that. Scout IQ already does this fairly intelligently. We're going to teach you how to read that data as well. The third column over is new. This one only has one new offer for whatever reason. Amazon looks like they chased all the other people off the listing. And it's in the all column. So merchant fulfilled and FBA shows up there. FBA, there is none. And we can see down in the bottom. This bottom line, so I'd say the top line with the rank and e-score, we'll get to e-score in a second, is very important. This book is selling. The rank is good right now. E-score is how many times the book has sold in the last 6 months. And it's not exactly the number of times it's sold, it's the number of days that it's sold at least once in the last 6 months. So it's not It's not perfect. If it says 150, it's probably sold 200 or 300 times. We're just looking at the number of days with sales because we don't want to lie and tell Amazon and use data that Amazon hasn't given to us. An e-score of 1 means it's sold at least one day or only one day in the last 6 months. In that case, it's not likely to sell again. In this case, an e-score of roughly 30 means it's selling well. It's selling once every 6 days, if I did my math correctly. Down in the bottom, it's really important data. We can see the used buy box, which is almost always the lowest prime price. We just did an eFlip training that's going to be going live here shortly. I did it with Greg Murphy. So if you came over to eFlip from Greg, thanks. We've got an hour-long training that we just put together, and my voice is still tired. So if I'm sitting here drinking water, I was drinking beers earlier with Jeffrey Clark. I've switched back over to water because I'm going to be playing Frisbee later today. Any Ultimate Frisbee fans in the house? 5:30, Grace College, middle of campus, Frisbee tonight. I'll see you out there. The used buy box is almost always the low prime price. We'll show you some examples where it is and it isn't. The new buy box is almost always the lowest new prime price, and then Amazon is on the listing or not. So let's walk you through this. Again, FBA column in this particular case is blank. That doesn't mean there's no prime sellers. It just means there's none in the lowest 20. The used buy box is higher than all of the used offers we can see. So the used offers that Amazon returns start at $594, go up to $623. The buy box is $13.99, meaning that's probably the lowest prime price. Now in the bottom right corner, this A icon right above the scan button will actually bring up all the prime prices on Amazon. So we're going to click through, is what we call it, or tap through, and you can see that indeed the lowest prime price, this is only prime prices, it's not showing anything else. We've filtered it to show prime only. You can see that the lowest prime price is indeed $13.99. We can close back out of there. So if we were to scan this book again, let me find it. If we scan this book, Scout IQ is running through a series of triggers based on the e-score and the sales rank. So in this case, it's probably looking at the lowest prime price. It's not visible, so it skips it. We're going to look at the highest visible merchant fulfilled, which was $623, and say, okay, that's our new target price until we look for other data points. We look at the buy box. If it's higher, in this case $13.99, we know that that's the lowest prime offer on the table. Now, depending on your pricing philosophy, you don't always want to be the cheapest prime offer. So in this case, it may be an indication. Let's say the prime offer was actually $8. It may be an indication to click through anyway and say, hey, the lowest one is $8. It's not, but let's pretend it is. Let's say it's $8 and the next one jumps up to 13 or 14 or 15. I think there were actually 2 books at $13.99 before. I think one of them just sold. You guys noticed that Murph Books is on this listing as well, which is Greg Murphy. So hi, Greg, if you're watching this. If the lowest prime price was lower than that, you still may want to click through and say, hey, I'm fine being the second lowest prime price. Is that high enough? And in this case, our app and everybody else's app is completely blind to that. We do alert you to the fact that the prime price is $13.99. However, that doesn't tell you what the second, third, and fourth. This is very important to understand when it comes to repricing as well. Many of you reprice it. I know some of you are going to jump on Jackal. Many of you use App Eagle or some of the other options that are out there. Make sure you really understand what data they're looking at, because in this case, if you wanted to price and be the second lowest prime price, just because you set your rules up that way, nobody can see it unless they're scraping Amazon, which is against Amazon's terms and is not good for anybody involved. So let's look at a few other examples now that you understand the layout of the screen, and let's look at this again. So here again, the FBA column is blank. The way my eyes work, I try and look in the upper left-hand corner. We tried to get most of the good data points. So we look at the profit or the payout based on the target price that we're picking. In this case, the app's logic and triggers pick $28. And if we were to sell at that price, you can tap that profit and actually see the calculator. If you're a merchant fulfilled seller, switch this over to merchant fulfilleds and leave it there, and then exit out. If you're FBA, like most of you or many of you are, leave it on FBA. You can see the profit. If you were to sell it at $28, you'd actually get a payout of $19 and change. You can change the buy cost if you'd like. So I look in the left corner, I say, great, I'm going to make $20 if I get this price. Now I've got to look at a couple other things. One, how likely is this book to sell? The rank is just under 1 million, 977,000. That's okay. A lot of people, and again, if you guys follow me, I say rank is mostly meaningless. It's a snapshot in time. A lot of people tell you don't list anything with a rank under 1 million. I think that is absurd, frankly. I believe 40+% of my profit comes from books ranked over 1 million. So be very cautious. Don't just stick to the million. E-score is much more telling. E-score in this case is 26. It's selling nearly once every 6 days for the last 6 months. That's a pretty good clip. It's selling well. If E-score was low, 3, 4, 5, I'm a little nervous. It's probably not going to get this price. The higher e-score is, the more likely I am to get that price. So a couple things on this book. One, the lowest prime price is really healthy. It's 28 bucks. However, the lowest used prices start at $5.76. So there's a ton of really low prices. Now, it's okay to ask for a pretty big premium if the e-score is high. In this case, e-score is in the middle. I don't know that I'd ask for 28 bucks. I may only ask for 25, 19.95, 15. Everybody's got their own price points. If it's a textbook, I'm going to ask for more because the student's going to buy it. On a regular book, this may be priced a little high. So just because the app triggered accept and says, yes, you should buy the book, there's still other things you can look at. Another thing you can look at is the new buy box is $11.32. Now that doesn't mean it's a prime offer. We'll show you some examples in a second. Before we even conjecture, let's click through, look at the prime offers, and we see one at $14.82, $16, then $28. So the question is, why did these offers not show up? Well, first off, $14.82, the highest visible offer, the 15th or 20th lowest offer is just under $7. The prime offers that are visible or that are actually on the listing are higher than that, which means they're invisible and they don't show up in this FBA column. So that's the most important thing to understand is why don't you see prices in the FBA column? Simply because they're not in the lowest 15 offers. End of story. Now the buy box usually goes to the lowest prime price. However, in this case it didn't. Let's go explain why. So Green Birch is a relatively new seller. In order to get the buy box, Amazon's got a ton of algorithms behind the surface and they award it to certain sellers. You have to be a professional seller. You have to pay the $39.99 a month. You have to sell prime. Typically, Amazon's almost always going to default to a prime price. I've got a really fun story about a $2,000 book I sold yesterday. Yes, I sold a $2,000 book. Unfortunately, it was canceled, but I'll explain why in a second. You have to be a professional seller. Usually selling prime helps. You have to have good metrics. Being just launched does not help. So in this case, Green Birch has 16 ratings. That's probably enough to qualify, but their feedback score is 87%, and Amazon says, you know what, we're going to give this to somebody else that's probably more reputable. The next offer up only has 1 seller rating. That's essentially just launched. They're probably not eligible as well. And then the third one up, $28, is a healthy seller, good feedback, 98% positive, and nearly 1,900 reviews. And so Amazon actually rewards them and says you can have the buy box. So the buy box is really important. Many people say, well, the buy box isn't that important for books, maybe for toys, maybe for music, maybe for other categories like kitchen. However, the boys down at Franklin Media, James, or I'm blanking on names. James, if you're watching, or Michael, if you're watching, hello. Thanks for stepping in. But these guys lost the used buy box for several weeks. Amazon had a glitch. These guys were actually going to fly out to Seattle and just go knock on the door and say, hey, can we get a, can we get our buy box back? And Amazon just, finally gave it back to them. I asked them to look at their sales, and I'm not going to share exact numbers, but they essentially lost 50% of their regular sales by not having the buy box. So the buy box is really important. This particular book, even though there's prime offers in the $15 to $16 range, if you can get the buy box and you're eligible, you can actually price against booking it. And again, maybe $28 is too high, but that's something you have to kind of make up your decision. So let's look at a few other buy box examples, then we'll shift gears slightly and take some of your questions. We already looked at that one. So here's another example. The FBA column is blank. Again, that doesn't mean there's no prime offers. It just means they're not in the lowest 15. The used offers are all jammed together again. They're all at $5.36. And again, that doesn't mean they're all exactly there, but Amazon returns them all in that bucket. You can see, the used buy box is actually $5.36 as well. Anytime the used buy box matches one of those offers you can see in the left column and the FBA column is blank, that typically means there's no prime offers on the listing. So if there's one prime offer on the listing, even if it's $500, it's going to actually qualify and be the used buy box. Now, Amazon may not show it, but they will show it in the API. So as far as Scout IQ is concerned, you will see that price. Whenever the used buy box is one of these or lower than what you can see here, you know it's probably merchant fulfilled. So let's click through. Let's go look for prime. There's currently no listings. Now, this doesn't mean there's no listings. It just means there's no prime listings. If you want to see the used listings, you can tap on the used header, and we should see prices at $5.36, $5.36, $5.36, a lot of them. Okay, so when you see cases like this, again, the app's going to pick as high of a price as it can based on the triggers. In this case, we had set it to look at the 10th lowest used price. In this case, the app's going to tell you to reject it. However, it's selling 20 times in the last 6 months. It's likely to keep selling. The new prices are okay. I actually don't care about new prices as well. It doesn't seem to matter. Prime prices are all that matters, and there's no prime prices either. So if you're a prime seller, you can set the price on this book. And actually, for those of you who do the e-flip strategy or do online arbitrage, you can see the ISBN in the corner. Go buy a copy for $5. There's a very good copy for $5.36. You can set the price. Now, you're probably not going to get $50 as the used buy box. I mean, you'll get the buy box, but you're not likely to sell it. Someone can buy it for $5. They're not likely to pay $50. Now, they are likely to pay $15 or $20, and there may be enough profit at those levels. We could actually go look. There may not be. Let's say we can get $19.95. If we got $19.95, you'd make $12. So you could spend $5 and profit $12. It's probably worth it. So if you guys are watching and want to go buy that, feel free to jump on in and buy some of those books. Let's look at just a few more, and then we'll stop beating the dead horse of used buy box. Another good example, FBA column is blank. And again, I preset these before. So if you're wondering how on earth does he have all these just at his disposal, I did my homework late last night and printed off a bunch of barcodes. So that's how. FBA is blank. It doesn't mean there's no prime. They're just not in the lowest 15. The used buy box is low. It's $9.17, and we see that price actually right here. Now, Scout IQ selected the highest visible price, and here's why. We looked at the numbers, and the formula is E-score is 14. We're probably looking at the lowest prime price. It's blank. We skip and look at the highest visible used price, 33. We then look at the buy box. Is it higher? If it's higher than that, we know it's probably the lowest prime price. In this case, it's lower, meaning the buy box somehow got won by a merchant fulfilled seller. Hopefully you're tracking this makes sense. If a merchant fulfilled seller won the buy box, that means odds are there's nobody selling at prime. Let's click through and find out. Sure enough, nobody's on this listing. When that happens now, again, we can set the prime price. If there was a prime price, it would be higher than what's visible. It would be higher than 33. So Scout IQ is picking 33 and saying, hey, you can price it at least here, if not higher. Now, in this particular case, E-score it's on the lower end, low to medium. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. So in this case, if merchant fulfilled starts at 10 or 9, I'm probably not going to price at 100. Probably not going to price at 50. 29 is actually reasonable. 25 is reasonable. 19.95 is I can easily sell it at that price point. And so that's kind of the thought process behind it. And let's look at one or two more. So here's an interesting case, and again, I did pre-select these before, so I kind of knew what we're getting into. Again, I'm looking in the corner saying, hey, based on the price Scout IQ is picking, I can probably profit close to $20, so it's accepts. Rank is okay, 1.2 million. E-score is okay, 13. The lowest prime actually shows up, so it's in the lowest 15. It's $29. However, if we look at the used buy box, it's actually lower. It's $13.78. So think about it. You guys can, if you want to comment in there as well and say, why do you think that might be, then jump in as well. And again, if you guys have comments, a lot of you are commenting as well. So Joshua, Han, Samir, thanks for jumping in. And thanks for being here and for your time. In this case, the used buy box is lower than the lowest prime. So why do you think that is? Any guesses, feel free to comment those as well. So we're actually going to click through. Let's go look at what's happening. There should be at least a prime price at 29. Let's see if there's anything else. So we've got one seller, Jordan's Prime Books. Jordan, if you're watching, hello. Thanks for being here. Hopefully you get eligible for the buy box. Because Jordan is just launched, or possibly because he's not a professional selling account just yet because he's trying to save a few dollars. Either way, he's not eligible for the buy box. So Amazon says, nope, you're ineligible. And they're actually going to award that to the best seller in their opinion, which is usually then the cheapest merchant fulfilled offer. So the buy box in this case, or what would happen if somebody goes to the product page and simply clicks on that title. Let's actually go show this to you. So if we go to the actual listing, it's a little bit different on mobile versus a regular computer. So you can see used and new from $13.78. In this case, Amazon actually has what's called a repressed buy box. And this is common on mobile. A lot of times there'll be an option here to just buy it. Actually, I lied. You can see it. So $13.78. If we added this to cart right from the home page, you would actually get this book at $13.78, which is the used buy box. And I don't know if my screen is updating there. There it goes. So apologies if there's any lag. So on the Amazon product page, it says $13.78 free shipping. And if you just added this to your cart, you would get that book. And if the buy box was awarded to Jordan, if he was able to get it at 29 bucks, then he would actually earn this buy box and get roughly double the sales of his competitors. So I see a couple questions here. How do you get the buy box? Again, be a prime seller, be a professional seller. Make sure you get past the fact where you are a just launched seller. Make sure you get some feedback and some reviews. I apologize. The AirDroid software is being a little bit laggy. Looks like it's caught up now. You can't pay Amazon. You can't bribe Lord Bezos and get any access to be the buy box. You're just going to have to earn it by getting some feedback, making sure you keep your metrics high, and Amazon will ultimately reward you with that. So any more questions on the buy box? I'll take just a quick side trip here. I've got a fun story to share, and then we'll jump into looking at some more of the data as well. So buy box, again, is really important. The guys at Franklin Media lost roughly 50% of their sales for a couple weeks in a row where they didn't have the buy box. So if you think it doesn't matter in media, think again. The buy box is extremely important. To illustrate that point, I want to share just a fun story. My wife texted me yesterday and said, hey, we just sold a $2,000 book. And I said, well, we're going to Jamaica. Let's go. And I'm like, wait a minute, that can't. There's very few books that should sell for $2,000. So what's going on is we're doing a couple repricing tests. We're trying to see what kind of data we can see on the back end from Amazon if we have a listing. So we're messing around, we're playing with some stuff. We listed a handful of books, merchant fulfilled, for $1,999, $2,000 roughly. And we're just tracking those to see what happens. Now, most of these, we don't own the books. I don't have any of these books. If you were to buy that book from me, I'm actually just gonna drop ship it from somewhere else and profit the money. It's a really cool form of arbitrage. So far, so good. We've had a few people email us and say, hey, is this book actually this expensive? We say, yeah. And then they go away and never buy it. Well, somebody bought it, and the reason is they went to the buy box and went to the product page and just said add to cart. We somehow won the buy box. Now, again, we were selling merchant fulfilled, which means we were probably the lowest used price, at least from somebody that's reputable. So what happened is I pulled up that listing. There was another used offer for $70 from a brand new seller, so they didn't qualify. We were on the listing for $2,000 and actually won the buy box. And I looked at the current buy box, it was $3,300. So the next lowest used price actually won the buy box. Those aren't realistic prices. It just means that, three pricers gone crazy or people like me messing around with the system. There was a new book for $30. And so I told my wife, hey, we could just drop ship the new book. However, I can almost guarantee they didn't mean to spend $2,000 for a book about dogs or whatever it was. So I said, before you do that, if we were to do that and they returned it, one, it's not the right thing for the customer. That's a lot of money. And maybe if they have that much money and don't notice, then maybe I can use it more effectively. But I wasn't going to do that. Secondly, if they were to return that book later, I'm out the Amazon fees, which on that book would have been 15% or roughly $300. So that would have actually hurt if that got returned later. So we emailed the seller and said, hey, did you mean to buy our book for $2,000? They said, nope, that was an accident. We thought we were buying the $30 book. So that's the power of the buy box. People are just trained to go in and just click buy, add to cart. They think they're buying it from Amazon, and Amazon sometimes gives preferential treatment to ridiculous prices. So that's the power of the buy box. I don't think you can build a whole business around that model of drop shipping fake books. Some people do. We'll come back to that story another time. All right, so that's the buy box. If you have questions on that, let me know. Gregory, Husha, Israel, and Gregory again, hello. Thanks for watching. Thanks for everybody that's out here. And we've got a bunch of comments already. Feel free to keep going as well. Josh says, I started Merchant Fulfill, got a bunch of feedback, like 5 to 9 for a couple months, have been FBA for over a year, and have only gotten like 10 more. Someone will have a better answer. I guess someone's asking about feedback percentages. It's very low. For every 100 books we sell, we probably get 1 or 2 feedback. That's it. I don't go pestering. There are some services like Feedback 5, I think, or Feedback Genius. You can go in and request feedback, and that does help early on. However, we buy a lot of books on Amazon, and I do not like getting hit with all the things of, hey, leave me feedback. If it's a brand new seller, sometimes I'll go in and try and help them out because I've been there as well. And yeah, feedback does not happen on Amazon like it does on eBay. eBay is scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and people hold feedback hostage. Amazon, it doesn't matter. In fact, a lot of people think they're buying from Amazon directly, and as a third-party seller, I'm okay if they think that. Crystal says, does Alexa use the buy box? If someone across the room tells Alexa to order and send ABC book, probably not a real book. I assume it comes out of the buy box. Do we have any idea? I don't know. Crystal, test it. Find a book that's somewhat cheap and see what happens. My hunch is they're going to actually send you Amazon's book. They may buy the used buy box if you tell them to buy a used copy, maybe they'll ask you, are you sure if you want to do it? So actually check that in as well. That'd be really curious. That'd be a fun strategy to do. Aaron says, if you price at the buy box, would you automatically get it? Amazon's got an algorithm. Usually it's the lowest prime price from a reputable seller, an established reputable seller. Sorry, this is hard to like read comments and try and talk and elaborate as well. And it's one-sided. I can see your comments, but I can't see you, and it's weird just yapping at a computer screen. So apologize if I get distracted. So Aaron says, if you price, just at the buy box, are you guaranteed to get it? If you're eligible, yes. You can see if you're eligible by going into Seller Central, going into Manage FBA Inventory, and then you can set up, there's an actual checkbox if you go into settings there that'll say show if you're eligible, and it'll let you know if you're eligible for the buy box. Books are a little weird because a lot of them you're not eligible for the new buy box, and it'll say you're not eligible, but you can check it as well. Renee says, will this video be available later? Also in YouTube, yeah, we're recording it, and we should be spitting it out later. Let me check. Yeah, we are recording. So we'll try and put this on YouTube later as well. Tim says, sometimes I can't sell the book. Amazon says I'm not approved to sell this brand. What do you do with them? eBay it? Yeah, you can eBay it. A lot of times, if it's a brand restriction, what's happening is someone miscategorized it. Like Brooks, for example, is a publisher and it's also a shoe brand. So a lot of times you can actually email customer support and they'll actually approve you to sell that. They just miscategorized it. Very few textbooks or books are actually restricted. If they are, you can a lot of times request approval or just sell on another marketplace. Ryan says, Caleb, can you do a couple more examples of books that you would buy that came up as reject and why? I know I'm missing some books with the data gaps. Yeah, we'll walk through a bunch of other books here. So hold on one second. And I apologize, guys. These ones are coming through. You guys are saying more examples. We've talked enough about the buy box. So let's jump in and look at more examples. And I've just got a whole bunch of random ones here. These aren't not a ton of rhyme or reason. I just got them set up here. So we're just going to scan through and talk about the results that come up. And then we'll go for another 10 minutes doing that. And then we'll answer some more questions. And we can look at some of your books if you have some as well. So let's make sure these are looking. And again, these aren't any particular books at this point. It's just a whole bunch of random ISBNs. So we'll go ahead and look at them. So in this particular case, rank is high, 3 million. E-score is 2. Hang on, this is still lagging. Let me reset my AirDroid connection. Probably chewing up too much bandwidth in this tiny condo. All right. This particular book, 3 million rank, e-score is 2. That's actually good. If e-score was 0, I'm probably not buying the book. The lowest used price is $15. Anytime, so again, let's take a step back. I like to just jump into the weeds, but in general, the better the rank and e-score, so the better the sales history altogether. If it's really poor, I'm ignoring prime prices. I don't think there's any prime leverage. In this particular book, it's only sold twice in the last 6 months. That means once every 3 months. It's not likely to sell again soon. It's probably going to take another 3 months, give or take, because past performance is the greatest indicator of future performance. So in this case, I don't really buy into the whole prime leverage. When it comes to pricing, I'm going to price this book at $16, $17, $18 prime. I'm going to come in at a minuscule premium. I'm not going to undercut prices because I don't want to create a price war. Most people have it set to, like, these guys are beating each other by a penny. If you came in at $15.62, they're just going to beat you in 15 minutes and come in at $15.61 or $15.60, and you're not going to win. So prime, if I'm going to sell it prime, I'm going to price a nickel, $1, $2 higher. Not a big premium, but just enough so I don't create any race to the bottom. So in this case, the sales history is low. It's not very good. So I'm not going to price much higher than the lowest visible prices. That's why Scout IQ is by default selecting the lowest used price. At that price, I would only make $6 of profit. That's not high enough to justify sitting on my shelf for 3 months. Rather Amazon's shelf and ultimately paying them storage fees if it's not selling. This may be a decent merchant fulfilled example. So if we go to the calculator and switch that over to merchant fulfilled, assuming it catches up with us. Again, I apologize. This software is going through Wi-Fi and there's a little bit of lag. If we go to merchant fulfilled, it's $9. If you can pick this book up for free and you've got a long tail shelf at home and you don't mind sitting on it, this may not be a bad book to merchant fulfill. I'd probably want to see $25, $30, $40 before it's worth my time to kind of handle that. But to each their own. I'm going to switch this back to FBA so I don't forget. Let's go through some more books. So again, I'm looking at sales history, and actually let's show the other screen. So this is something we built out within the app. This is kind of the secondary view, or the Scout IQ Lite. What we've done is we've actually gone green, yellow, red, like a stoplight, and instead of yellow, we did orange just to match our branding. So red, the first two pieces are the history. What's the current rank? When did it last sell? 3.3 million. It probably sold 2-3 months ago. E-score, it sold twice in the last 6 months. So that's the sales history. Those are both red. So right now that's telling you this is a long tail book. It's not likely to sell. The next pieces are looking at the key pricing point. So what's the lowest used price on the market? If I was just to match the lowest price, what is that? 15 bucks. That's good. It's green. The used buy box is also good. It's healthy. It's not under $10. It's not under $8. So it's okay. Amazon's not on the listing, so they don't get a say in the matter. And the total offers is really good. The fewer the offers, the better. However, if there's only 2 offers and the book is a $10,000 book, those do happen. I don't think I have any examples here. But if that was the case, I'm not really putting any stock in that price. The more offers there are, I don't really get worried. I only care about what the current prime prices are. But the more offers there are, the more likely there are to be prime sellers on the listing, and the more likely it is to be a legitimate price because of the efficient market theory. So let's actually stay on this screen and we'll walk through some more examples. So again, we look at the top. The first 2 pieces are related to the sales rank. So is this book selling? It's red, not very much. What are the prices? Yeah, this is still, there we go. So the first 2 pieces are red. The prices that we can see are in the middle, 11, 12 bucks. It's not great. It's okay. Amazon's not on it. There's not very many offers. And again, I'm going to reject this book personally just because there's not enough meat left on the bone. Let's keep going. Hopefully our software will keep up in the background. There we go. All right, so again, the first 2 data points here are yellow or orange. I'm just going to call them yellow. They're yellow because they're in the middle. Sales rank's okay at 2 million. E-score is decent at 5. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's somewhere in between. It's a Goldilocks. The lowest used price is 8 bucks. It's not the floor price that it could be at $5 or $6. That's kind of the floor price we're seeing these days. The used buy box isn't at the floor, but it's not great either. So when I see something here where the rank and e-score are red or yellow and everything else is just pegged out, it's solid green, I get excited because it's probably worth looking at. I think these are a lot of long tail books. Let's look at some more examples here. Let's make sure our software is not lagging. Okay, so again, rank and e-score are yellow. That's okay, they're in the middle. Lowest used price and used buy box they're really high. They also match, which means there's probably no prime sellers. So again, the used buy box went to the lowest merchant fulfilled price. Amazon's not on it. We don't have to worry about them. The number of offers is low as well. So everything checks out. Again, the app is telling us, we're going to price at the 10th lowest price or the 5th lowest price based on that e-score. So we're going to be at 63 bucks. That may be a little aggressive. I probably would only price this at 35 or 40, maybe 49. I probably wouldn't go all the way up to 63 just because it's not selling that often. It's only once a month at an e-score of 6, but that's what I'm looking at. Let's keep going. Let me, again, try and explain my thought process as we're running through these examples. Again, most things here are red or yellow. The number of offers, again, I don't really care. It's more about rank and price, but the number of offers does play a very small role. So here, rank is 3 million, that's high. E-score is 1, that's almost as low as it gets. It's not 0, but it's not selling much. The lowest used prices are really low. I'm walking away. I'm not even giving this a second thought. Let's keep going. I think I've got some less long-taily type books, and we'll get to those here as well. So again here, rank and e-score are in the middle, 2 million, 5 as an e-score. The lowest prices are pretty low. The buy box is also low, and Amazon's not on it. Again, in this particular case, there actually are some prime prices we can see. The reason we don't select those at Scout IQ here is because the e-score is selling less than once a month. So we're primarily ignoring prime. I don't think there's much of a prime bump you can get at this point, and we're going to be pricing closer to the low end of things. This is a book, one of you asked a question, I think Ryan said, would you still buy this book potentially? Possibly. I can get $15, and $15 isn't a huge prime price, especially on a book like this, Chess for Young Beginners. Now, it is a kid's book, but that means a parent is probably buying it for them. It could be for a birthday. They want it quickly. Husha Moore, if you guys follow her, looks like Gussie, but it's Husha. If you see that, you can actually, in this case, you're thinking, who's going to buy this book? Someone that cares about chess. So someone who's smart, maybe they shouldn't be impatient and getting prime, but it's probably someone buying it for a kid. In that case, getting 15 bucks is not a bad option. This particular book is saying, hey, you're only going to get $6 of profit. It is selling once a month. If I had to pay $3 for it, I'm not buying it. If I had to pay $1, I probably would buy it. And I might sit on it for a little bit, but hey, you can roll the dice, turn $1 into $6, and that's not such a bad return. So that might be a book I actually look at. We're going to keep it on the, we'll keep it on this Scout standard screen here just because that's where I'm most familiar. But understand that that Scout Lite screen is actually a pretty good way just to see, is it good, bad, or somewhere in between. Let's try and find some non-long tail stuff. Let me just try and scan through. I kind of bunched stuff together when I was looking up ISBNs. Give me 1 minute. Okay, here's some other stuff that's not quite on the low end. So here, rank's okay, 600,000. E-score is 7. Again, it's on the lower end, but it's selling once a month. The lowest prime price is 10 bucks. Second lowest is 11. So we might be able to get 11. The buy box is actually 11.65. So this lowest prime seller doesn't qualify. Again, we already talked about why that happens. In this case, they have lower feedback, so they're probably not eligible. So 11.65 is maybe where we could actually list it. That's $3. Again, these are the stock triggers that come with it. If you're happy waiting a month and making $3 off a 50-cent investment or a free book, then by all means change your triggers so that you accept these. We try and be conservative here. We don't want you buying junk, and we make sure that you're buying the very best possible books. Let's keep going through some other books here. Let's try to find some e-scores a little bit higher. There we go. So here's a good example. The FBA price that's visible is $10.57. Wait for that to pop up. And again, there's a bit of a lag between our software we're using. It's not a Scout IQ issue per se. Okay, here we go. The lowest FBA price is $10.57, and it's saying at that price you'd make $4.70, and you're rejecting it because the e-score is only 25. Again, if you're happy with that, you can change your triggers, but this one's probably right on the edge. I bet our trigger is set at roughly $5. So if we can get slightly higher than that, then we can actually get this. This is a good example. This book is selling roughly once a week. It's got an e-score of 25. There's 26 weeks in half a year. So this is one where I'm actually going to click through. I'm going to click Prime. And in this case, His Way Books is on it for $10.57. There's not a number 2 position. So if we want to price this in the number 2 slot, we can essentially set the market price. Now, you can't get greedy. You can't price this at $500 and expect to get the sale. Now, I can expect, $14.95. I like to price at $95. So $14.95, $12.95, $19.95. I'd probably price this at $12.95 or $14.95. And in those cases, if I did, my payout's going to be much better. So if I came in at $14.95 instead of just under $5, I'm going to make just over $8. And that almost certainly is a book I would purchase. So even if this is a book that you say on the surface, I wouldn't buy it because the app is telling me, no, don't buy it. That's because we can only see one prime price, and that's the used buy box. So in this case, this is actually a book I would be very comfortable purchasing, and that's why it's important to look at the data and say, okay, in this case, let's go back through the situation. If the e-score was low, like 4 or 5, I don't care. I don't want to be number 2 in line prime. I'm either number 1 or I'm not even going to be prime. I'm just ignoring it and pricing close to the lowest merchant fulfilled. So if the e-score on this particular book is low, I'm skipping it. If it's in the middle like it is here, it's in the 20 to 50 range, let's call it, then I'm actually going, wait a minute, I can probably be number 2, 3, or 4 in line and wait for the sale to come to me. I don't have to be the cheapest prime price. So because we only have one prime price visible, that should perk your attention and go, wait a minute, I'm not seeing the whole story. That should prompt you to click through. Now, if there were 5 prices all under $12, I'm still probably walking away. If there's only 1 or 2 prices or the second price is at $20, I'm going, wait a minute, I could probably get $13 to $15. This now all of a sudden goes from being right on the edge of don't buy it to actually, hey, let's buy this book. So that's, we kind of stumbled into a good example there. Let's look through a few more and then we'll take some of your questions and we'll let you get on with your days. So here's another book. This is very common. This is extremely common. So e-score it's in the middle. Again, I like to think of things as, this shows as yellow. I like to think of things as bad, medium, or good. So this is in the middle. It's okay. Again, I don't really pay too much attention to rank. Rank doesn't mean all that much. It's just when it last sold. E-score in this is okay. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm fine being number 2 or 3 in line for prime. If this was really high, like if the e-score was 100, I'm going, I could be number 5 or 6 and just wait for the sale to come to me. or be the lowest price and just move it as fast as I can. In this case, I see there's nothing in the prime column. So we're dealing with one data point prime, that's it. The other data points we can see, I don't place much preference or much attention to looking at the lowest new prices. I know some people like to keep their used prime prices lower than the lowest new, in this case 40 bucks. I don't think it really matters. Prime buyers want to buy prime books. I sell prime books all the time more expensive, used prime, than the lowest new price, and that's because people just think that used is cheaper. That's all they're looking at, or they're using the buy box. So I don't pay too much attention over there. In this case, FBA is blank. I'm looking at the buy box. It's higher than the prices on the left column, so I know that $17.94 is the buy box. It's the lowest prime offer. We can click through and validate that information. When we do that, we can see that indeed $17.94 is. There's two people on the listing for $17.94, and then the price jumps. This is a stock trading terminology. It's not very technical, but the price jumps, right? There's low resistance. So I can actually be number 3 in line and get closer to $22 or $19.95 or whatever your magic price point is that you want to come in at. So in this particular case, even though it told me to reject because maybe my profit threshold is $6 or $7 at this E-score, and again, for those of you looking at this going, I would buy that book, lower your profit thresholds. You can do that by going over to your triggers, figure out that range we were just in, 13 to 24. Our target profit right now is $7.50. If you're happy with something lower, change it to $5, change it to $4. So again, set these up. Don't just go blind. It's great to start blinds when you don't know what you're doing, and we've got your back. We're going to make sure that you're buying good books. But if you're constantly seeing stuff like this, just realize you're leaving stuff on the shelves that you could be getting. And that's sort of intentional. We don't want you buying a lot of junk, but we want to make sure you're buying the best possible books as well. So in this case, because the E-score is okay, I know I'm fine being number 2 or 3 in line. In this case, I know I can probably get closer to $22 rather than the $17 that shows up here. Let's find just another example or two. That was very fortuitous that those came together. Here's another one. And again, I believe it's 59% of books. This is probably 2 months old. I haven't run the data recently. 59% of books, let's call it 2 months ago, with a sales rank under $1 million. So this qualifies, had 0 prime prices visible in the API. That means this FBA column is blank, and that's the case here. There's not a prime price in the lowest 15 offers. The used buy box is very important, but we're only getting 1 price. Again, this is exactly in that same range we were just looking at. E-score is 22. I'm probably fine being number 2 or 3 in line at $10 and making $1 of profit, even if I got the book for free. Not worth my time. I'm moving on. However, because I'm looking at the data, I'm not just scanning with audio triggers. I'm going, wait a second. I wonder what the number 2 prime price is. So let's click through. In this case, they're all bunched together. There's a lot of resistance is the stock term. There's 4 or 5 prices all within $1 or $2. So this is a book I'm still going to pass on. Now, if the second, third, and fourth prices were all at $15, I get excited and I start going, wait a minute, I should actually click through and look at this. Let's see if we can get just a few more. Here's another decent example. E-score is 10 in this case. We're still keying in on the buy box. At an E-score of 10 or selling 1.5 times a month, I don't want to be number 2 in line, and I'm not going to ask for that much of a premium compared to a $6 book if it's not selling that often. Your mileage may vary, your thoughts may change. If we were to click through, let's see if there is a price jump. Looks like there's 2, 3, 4, 5 prices under $13, and then it jumps. It's not likely to burn through those 5 offers and get myself a $17.95 price point. So in that case, I am certainly going to pass on that book. Let's look at just a few more, and then we'll answer your questions. I always say I'm not going to talk very long, and then I talk for a long time. Another way Scout IQ protects you is that we look at the FBA slots. In this case, because the E-score is really good, it's selling nearly every day, probably every day. We're going to be number 3 or 4 or 5. There's not 4 or 5 prices, so we look at the highest merchant fulfilled price, which is $16. We look at the used buy box. Is it higher? No, so we stay with that. But then just as a sanity check, we always look over to Amazon and say, hey, if Amazon's on it for that, we actually don't want to match Amazon. Now, one important thing, we actually don't price at Amazon, we price at a discount. Most of the triggers are set up at 10% less, so 10% off of a $12 book is $1.20. We're going to be roughly in the $10.60, $10.70 range. So if we click through here, how's that for mental math? If we click through here, the list price doesn't match Amazon. The reason for that is we're taking 10% discount from Amazon to try and be a little bit smarter. So a lot of times you'll scan books and it's highlighting Amazon. That's not a flag. That's not saying don't buy the book. It's simply saying the price that we had before was too close. We were flying too close to the sun. Here's another book. Again, FBA column is blank. The used buy box is really healthy. Heck, the lowest used price is 16 bucks. Everything looks really good. However, Amazon's on this listing for 10 bucks. So we're going to come in at 10% off of that, or $8.99 or 9 bucks. And there's not enough meat left on the bone. If you're happy with $250, that's great. Again, this is one of those weird pricing philosophies. You could probably price this book in $19.95. Someone that just goes in and buys the lowest used book or the used buy box thinking it's cheaper than Amazon will actually buy your copy. That does happen. I wouldn't advise that as a general rule, but if you're feeling risky, you may want to try that. Here's a book. It's about as high as you can get. The rank is 17 million. This is not one that I'm going to sit as a long tail. This one probably sold 3, 4, 5 years ago. Not likely to sell again. Even though it's an expensive book, I'm probably going to leave that on the shelves. Does anybody have a long tail shelf? Comment if you do. Do you have a long tail shelf that you just have a bunch of home run type books like this that are, 80 bucks or 100 bucks or 200 bucks that you're just hoping are going to sell? Comment below if you have that. I probably wouldn't put this one on my shelf with a rank that high. That's extremely high. Okay, rank is good. E-score is really good. In this particular case, I'm happy being 3 or 4 or 5 in line. This is maybe a textbook, the greatest book, something. We can click through and look at it. It may be, with an e-score that high, maybe a textbook. We could see some lower new prime prices as well. In this case, I'm probably going to price that in the $55 range, $65 range. I'll be number 2 or 3 in line. We're getting some comments here. Okay, so a couple of you are asking, hey, you don't understand what it means if the FBA column is blank or there's no prices. So Amazon's API, the way that we get as developers, the way we get data from Amazon is they say, hey, we submit the ISBN to them and say, hey, Amazon, give me all the results for this. Well, a lot of books have 200 or 300 results. Amazon's not going to give us all of that data. There's no reason to. It's just going to clog up their servers. It's a lot of wasted data because I don't care about all 300 prices. I care about the relevant prices. So what Amazon does is they actually give us the lowest 15, in some calls that we make to them, they give us the lowest 20 offers. But what happens is they're going to return the lowest 20 offers, the lowest 15 offers. If there's any prime prices in there, we pull them out and put them into that FBA column, which is the second one over. It's this one right here that I'm highlighting. If there's no prime prices in the lowest 20 offers, this column is blank. Now before, and if you were using other apps before we came out, they weren't doing anything to look at other data points. So if the FBA column was blank and you said, I want to be the lowest prime price, it would just say, sorry, we can't pick any price, and reject the book, or they would look at the lowest merchant fulfilled. What we do is we actually look at the used buy box. Let's go back to some that didn't have any prime prices in the lowest 20. So here's an example. The FBA column is blank. That means there's nobody. The lowest 15 offers don't have any prime prices. Now that doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means they're not visible from the data Amazon gives us. So the used buy box is very important. And again, if you're jumping on the call late, we looked at this earlier. In this case, the used buy box is one of these used offers or the merchant fulfilled offers above. And because of that, if we tap through, we can pretty much guarantee there's no prime prices. If we find a different one, and I've got these labeled, yep. This one, the FBA column is blank. Doesn't mean they don't exist, they're just not in the lowest 15 offers. So Amazon doesn't give it back to us. They do give us the used buy box in a different call. And the used buy box is almost always the lowest prime price. So we can actually know that if we were going to price this out, we would price this a little bit higher. So hopefully that helps. I'm going to stop yapping. I'm going to go look for some questions. There is a ton of questions. Sherry says, thank you. Pete said you were confused with the lowest price is not in the 15 in FBA. So hopefully we clarified that for you. If you guys have some questions, feel free to queue those up. And we've also got some ISBNs that came through earlier. I'm going to take those, and if you have questions, drop them in. Matthew, if you can help me, I'm going to look up a few ISBNs manually, and if you can help me with any other questions. Looking at this live, I can only see about 4 at a time, unless there's a way I can change that. I don't know if it's because I'm the admin and I'm seeing something differently or what, but at any rate, if there's other questions that pop up, Matthew, you could throw those in. I'm going to pull some of your ISBNs that you've asked. So Josh said, check this one, please. We'll go ahead and pull this up live. Okay, make sure that popped up. So you should be able to see that. Okay, so the lag's gone. Josh, that's a great book. I don't know what your questions are. So rank is good. E-score is good. I mean, it's lower. It's a medium. It's not the best it could be, but it's very, very healthy. The used prices start at 175. I love it. New prices are at 271. The used buy box is 174. There's a couple kind of clumped in there. This is probably a textbook, and whenever I see textbook, I start going, you're making two decisions. One is, should I buy the book or not? Yes, you should buy the book, especially if it's $1 or $5 or even 20. You should buy the book. The second question is, where do you price it? And we can click through to Amazon and look at the prime prices. So we've got 1, 2, 3. These are all wedged in there. They could be getting a prime bump, and they're not doing it. So in this case, e-score is okay. It's probably a textbook. The way to validate that is to click through Keepa. I prefer to do this on a computer, but I'm okay jumping on this on a regular app as well. We're going to bring up sales rank, and we're going to zoom out to 1 year. So it looks like Keepa didn't have rank. That's everything. Let's do 1 year. Sorry. Fat finger in the screen. Come on. There we go. I don't see any smile patterns. This is not a textbook in my opinion. And Josh, you can see the price has been anywhere from $50, although it quickly jumped up from that. So I'm looking right, if it'll let me. Yeah, I'm looking right there. The price was $50, $44, and then it's quickly been up. So the price historically has been between $100 and $150. It's actually at the high end right now, which is probably why the prime sellers are so close. If I'm you, I'm probably going to wait and just let those guys sell out and maybe come in at $199. However, this book normally is in the $100 to $150 range, so I may be tempted to match one of these lower prices and just try and get the next sale, especially if I've only got a couple bucks tied up in it. I don't care if I wait a couple months and get a couple extra dollars. I'd rather just move it. So that's one. Caesar, you've got a couple more ISBNs. Let's look at some of yours. And again, we're asking two questions. The one when we scout is, should I buy the book? As I'm trying to talk and type at the same time. And then the other one is, where do I price it? So let's answer that first. One, e-score here shows as blanks. That does not mean it's an e-score of 0. It doesn't say 0, it says hyphen hyphen. That just means it's not in our database yet. We do crowdsource. If you're scanning books and they don't show up like this, all we can see is the rank but no e-score. We are now going to add that back in, which is pretty cool. So rank is good. We don't have e-score to go off of. It feels a little bit blind, but that's okay. The rank at 200,000 means it sold 2 days ago, or maybe 2 hours ago. It didn't sell. It sold recently. We could pull Keepa if we wanted to look at sales history. The lowest price starts at $19, and I'm pretty happy with that. Now Scout IQ is saying $158 because we're taking the highest visible price because there's no prime offers, and because the used buy box matches our lowest used price, which means there's probably no prime prices. Let's click through. There is, but they're not eligible. Now this is an interesting one because there's theoretically only 11 used offers. Somehow Amazon's API is not returning that offer in it. So that's an intriguing one. In this particular case, yes, you should buy the book if you're happy making $9. I would probably price this in the $39 to $49 range. I'd have to look at a sales history through Keepa to actually know if I wanted to do that. So if I brought this up and looked at the last year on Keepa, it's selling well. It's not amazing. It's not poor. It's somewhere in between. I'm probably going to price this at $30 or $40. Caesar had one more. Guys, hopefully this is helpful. If it is, put a comment below. Thanks for being on this call as well. Here's a good example of another book. So the rank is 2.7 million. It's high, but it's not 17 million high. E-score is 0, so this one actually has sold 0 times in the last year. It is in the database. It's just sold 0 times. The used offers start at 250. Prime start at 250. Now the question we have to answer is that realistic? So we're going to click Keepa. We're going to go look, and we can actually see where it's sold. Now in this particular one, because it hasn't sold in 6 months, we're not going to get great data. This is a little weird. The rank kept going up. It kind of came down, but that's not a sale. It stayed above 2 million. If it's a sale, it would have dropped to 100,000. This book has historically been over $100. It dropped for about a month or two in May and June down to $45, but it's not selling at that price. Let's zoom out to all time and see. You can see where the book's been. So normally the book was well under $100. We can see back in 2013 it was at $21. When Keepa started picking up on it in 2015, it was selling. It did sell a fair amount of times, and at $4. it looks like it's sold somewhere in here at about $125. And then if we were to look somewhere in here, it's hard because there's a bunch of squiggles. This book probably sold in the $50 range. Hasn't sold in over a year. If I'm pricing that book, it hasn't sold at this price, so it's probably not realistic. I would probably undercut what's there and come in at 99, 149, somewhere in there, maybe even 49, and just try and get the next sale. So again, should you buy the book? Maybe. The rank's not that bad. Rank has a memory to it. A lot of other books that haven't sold in over a year would probably be ranked 5, 6, or 7 million. Because this one has sold in the past, again, we saw that all chart with Keepa, it has sold. Rank remembers. It knows that it used to be popular, and it's just not a cool kid anymore. So rank doesn't go up as fast as some other books, potentially. You'll see this same trend with textbooks that haven't sold in a little while. They might only get up to 1.2 or 1.3 million, even if they haven't sold in 3 months. Okay, let's answer some other questions. Is there any software automate letting you know if or when you lose the buy box? Probably. Some of the repricers probably do it. I don't use any off-the-shelf repricer. I'm repricing through my own system right now. I think App Eagle, from what I've heard, and again, I'm just going off of very generic research, so don't hold me to it. I think they're pretty good at getting the buy box, and they may tell you what % of your items are eligible, or even if you are or not. How long did it take the seller you mentioned to notice? They were noticing right away because their sales dropped off. Again, if you're a bigger seller and you're normally doing $1,000 or $2,000 a day, and all of a sudden your sales cut in half and you're doing 500 to 1,000 a day, you're going to notice pretty quickly. And you start going, what's wrong? What am I missing? Is my repricer screwed up? Nope. Okay, what am I missing? All right, my something else is going on, so that's an issue. Someone says, how do I know what trigger I am using? The triggers are primarily based off of e-score. So you can go back to triggers and you can tap on those. You can see the e-score ranges. Trigger 1 is anything higher than 150. Trigger 2 is between 115 and 150 on the e-score. So we always opt for e-score first. That's a much better indicator than rank. If it's not in the database or we don't have an e-score for some reason, we will look at rank. So you can look at those. So if the e-score was 75, we'd look at trigger number 3 in the 71 to 114 range and make decisions off of that. We'll take a couple more questions and we'll let you get back to your Wednesdays. Matthew, thanks for helping us out. If you guys don't know Matthew Osborne, he is my business partner and he's been very instrumental in the development and marketing for Scout IQ. So if you like what you're seeing there, give him a virtual high five and say thanks for being on the team. Someone says, I got lucky paying $2 for this book. What would you price it at? Let's go find out. So here's another book. And guys, as you have questions later, we'll make this video available through Facebook and, Margin of Safety. This is probably one of the all-time great books. We'll come back to this in a second. Guys, if you like what you're seeing, feel free to share it with your friends, invite your friends to the Facebook group. We're going to be doing these at least monthly, maybe twice a month. It's kind of fun to hang out with y'all. Maybe I'll have a beer next time. You guys can join me, maybe on a weekends. Not all of you can drink during the day. I apologize. But we'll try and do these at least once a month, maybe twice a month. Don't hold me to that, but for sure once a month. And we'll be answering some other in-depth questions as it relates to books. It won't just be sourcing. We'll talk about listing, how to price, repricing, etc. Guys, this book, if you're not familiar with it, Margin of Safety, is one of the all-time great books. It's very expensive. It's very rare. And it is sort of, I believe it's the Warren Buffett story. It's by Seth Klarman, I believe. It's hard to see that picture. This particular book, those are not wrong prices. This book actually sells at that price. The way to tell that is to pull up a Keepa chart. Again, I prefer to do this on a computer. We will next time. But this particular book, every time the green line drops, you can look at what the black price was at that point in time, so $7.79. That book sold at least $7.79, if not higher. That's just the lowest used price at the time of a sale. The book actually dropped for a while into the $6.99 range, $5.22, sorry, and it wasn't selling. And then for whatever reason, it got really popular. I don't know. No, that's not when. I don't know what happened there, but somehow the book got really popular and the book spiked and went back up. So this particular book, if you have it, congrats. It should be a really quick, easy sale. Scout IQ is telling you to be number 2 in line. Once my internet stops lagging here. There we go. Scout IQ is saying be number 2, so price at $9.50. Let's just look through here and see what's up. So the first book is at $8.99. It's from a decent seller, 89% positive. We've got some pretty good sellers, 4,000 reviews, 98% feedback. Scoob World has a few of these. I've heard there's some counterfeits out there. I know there's some guys on eBay, I believe, selling them, and they're not quite legitimate. So be careful if you run into this. If it looks fishy or photocopied, you might not want to sell it. In this case, I don't want to be the lowest prime. I mean, unless you just want to sell it right now and walk away with $900 minus fees, that's not a bad option. If you can be number 2 and get $949, I'd probably price at $949. Try and be number 2 in line. If I want to be number 5, I have to wait for 3 guys in front of me to sell at $950 before I might get $1,000. I'd probably price where the app tells me $950, $949. Guys, if there's any other last questions, let's jump on those now. Daniel Norris says, scored that book margin at a safety at a book sale preview. Plenty of people scanned through the business section yet missed it. That's awesome. Saying the book is in excellent condition. The binding is so tight that it's never been cracked open. It could just be a new printing. I'm not trying to scare you away. There are some fakes out there in books in general, but you're probably going to be okay. If you guys have any other questions, jump in now. Otherwise, we will wrap this up. If you guys are in Warsaw, Indiana, every Wednesday night, they do, in the summer at least, they do play Ultimate Frisbee at Grace College in the middle of the campus. I will be heading over there in about an hour. If you'd care to join, come on over. All right, I'm not seeing anything else trickle in. I know there's a little bit of a delay. Guys, thanks for being here. Gals, thanks for being here. One more question. We'll jump on that real quick. Andy and Josh, thanks for watching. One more question, and we'll wrap this up. Someone says, I do a lot of bulk sourcing. I'd be curious as to your opinion on how to configure the triggers to catch most merchant fulfilleds and FBA books. I realize if I just use the triggers, I will miss some books, but looking to learn more. So again, you probably have employees if you're doing bulk sourcing, or you've got people scouting on your behalf. Again, the fastest way to scout is to look at every single scan, to use audio, and you're going to overbuy or underbuy. The best way to scout is to look at the screen like we did and make decisions about, you know what, I'm only seeing one prime price. I'd like to be number 2 or 3 in line, and so I'm actually going to click through and look for more data. I'm going to go looking for more data points, so to speak. Let me close the phone out here. What I would do is if you're setting a merchant fulfilled operation, if you're selling merchant fulfilled, I would change the triggers to ignore FBA and simply look at the lowest merchant fulfilled. If the e-score is really good or the rank's really good, I would look at the 3rd or 4th merchant fulfilled price. If the rank's bad, I'd look at the lowest price, and I'd set my margins, I'd set them very small. The other option you can do is to look at the lowest FBA price if it's there, and then look at the lowest merchant fulfilled price if it's there. You could actually turn the use buy box off, and you would actually then just pick the lowest of those 2 prices that are out there and try and run your calculations based off of that. Again, with a bulk operation, you're going to want to be setting them down to be okay with a 50-cent profit or 75-cent profit. I didn't answer that question very well. If you have other questions there, I'm happy to help set them up to customize to your situation. It's hard to know if I don't know all the situations that are going on. Enrique says, as a newbie, should we use the suggested price? If so, how long should we wait before repricing? I've found that if I price it well, usually the suggested price is going to be good. Every once in a while, you'll see prices at $10 and the used buy box is like $500. It just doesn't make sense. If that's the case, don't listen to the app. It is definitely a book you should buy, and that's what the app is trying to help you figure out. It's not a repricer. It's simply saying, should I buy the book or not? If let's say the used prices are at $10 and the prime price is at $500, you're not going to want to price it at $500. You'll certainly want to buy it. You got to make a better decision. I found that when I price carefully up front and don't just let a repricer handle it, books sell pretty well for about 6 weeks, and then they start to tank. So I don't sell, my turn rate goes way down. So at about 6 to 8 weeks, that's when I found that it's about time to go in and reprice. L says, first timer. L, thanks for being here. Ryan says, are you dividing 180 by the e-score to get roughly the daily sales velocity? Yeah, or sales per day or days per sale, so to speak. So if the e-score is 6, I know that e-score is out of the, 180 divided by 6 is 30, so it's selling once every 30 days or once every month. Janie says, how do you reset the triggers to original settings? We're going to build an option where you can just click a button and it'll reset for you. In the meantime, uninstall the app and reinstall it, log back in, and it'll be reset back to the basic original ones for you. All right, guys, my voice is tired. It's a beautiful day. I'm going to go enjoy. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for taking an hour out of your busy days as well. If you're a Scout IQ customer, thanks for your business. We'll keep doing these. And again, we're going to try and make you better booksellers, whether you use our software or not. So from Warsaw, Indiana, I'm going to be signing off. Thanks for your time.